Hi, and welcome to this unboxing video of the Mycle Cargo bike. Today I'm going to go through the unboxing of the bike and the few assembly bits that you need to do once you've got the bike out of the box. What I brought along is a bin liner, just so that I can pack away some of the packaging materials, and then obviously a sharp knife so that I can open up the box. So let's go ahead and get it open. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing some of the packaging material and just storing it away into a bin liner. I'm not going to throw this away yet because it's good to keep just in case you ever need to rebox the bike for any reason. Now that I've got the majority of the packaging out, I'm going to set that to one side so that it's out of the way. I'm now going to start taking some of the additional components and accessories out of the box and setting them in front of my work area. So first of all, I have my Mudguard. I then have my charging box, which also has a small toolkit inside. I have the cargo bike stand, and finally I have my cargo front wheel. I have a few more bits of packaging which I'd like to remove just to make getting the bike out of the box that little bit easier. Okay, so now everything is out, and I just have the bike freely moving within the box. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull the front of the bike out of the box, slide the bike forward and then rest it again on this front part of the box so that I can use the box as a bit of a work stand for my first task. So I've now got my handlebars out of the box and I have my stem, which I can easily access, and the bike is stable within its box still, so I can do the work without it falling over. First things first, let's get the protective covers off of the handlebars and then set them aside back on top of the box. I'm now going to go to my accessory box, which was one of the ones I brought out a while ago, and inside here I'm going to take out our small toolkit. This has got all the tools in it that we require to complete the assembly and get the bike on the road. For this part of the assembly, I'm going to locate the 5mm Allen key. If you're not sure which one the 5mm is, I'd recommend bringing the toolkit to the bolt that you're looking for and then just do a bit of trial and error just to make sure it fits, and that's the one that we want. I'm going to start taking off the 4 bolts that hold on the stem cap here. With that removed, I can then think about putting the handlebars in place. What I would like to show you at this point is the way in which I'm going to do these bolts back up once I have handlebars in place. And I'm going to do that as such, where I'm going to do it in a diagonal pattern, similar to what you would do if you were fixing a wheel onto a car. I'm going to start in the top left-hand corner there. I'm going to do that up just to pinch tight. I'm then going to move down to this one in the bottom right corner, once again up to pinch tight. I'm then going to move across to that one and do that one to pinch tight, and then finally I'm going to finish in the top right-hand corner and do that one pinch tight, before continuing that sequence all the way around until they're all to the correct tightness. This would be a good time where possibly an extra pair of hands might come in handy, so that you can have someone holding the handlebars in place whilst the other person starts doing these bolts up. Unfortunately, I haven't got an extra pair of hands, so I am just going to show that it can be done by one person alone. So that's my first bolt going in, and as I said to you earlier, I'm starting with the top left-hand bolt, and I'm just going to do that up so that it's pinch tight and it's just putting a little bit of tension on those handlebars. I'm then going to take my second bolt. I'm now going to move down to the bottom right. Once again, just get that until it's pinch tight. And I'm going to adjust the handlebars at this point and just make sure that they are perfectly central and in the upward angle that I would like. I'm then going to take my third bolt. I'm now moving over onto the bottom left. And finally, fourth bolt, which is going to finish us in the top right. I'm now going to go back round all of those bolts, starting in the top left, and just start tightening them to the required tension. What you'll find now, if you go back round once again, bolts that you've previously done up that felt tight at the time now may feel a little bit looser because the other bolts are releasing some of the pressure on that bolt. So it's worth just going around and doing one more check just to make sure everything's nice and tight. In terms of how tight they need to be, I'd recommend just making sure that as you're pushing on the Allen key, you're getting a bit of an indentation on your palm or on your fingers, just to make sure that you are applying enough pressure to get them securely placed. So that's that done. I'm going to pop my 5mm Allen key back down into the toolkit so that I don't misplace it. And I can now get to work on getting the bike out of the box and getting the box away so that we've got a bit more room to work. Now the bike in this state will stand on its own, but it isn't at its most stable. So once again, if you have an extra pair of hands, this would be a good opportunity for them to hold onto the bike whilst you're tidying the box away. As I say, it will stand on its own, but it wouldn't be stable, and if it was knocked slightly, it would fall over. What I have done, I've taken out one large square piece of packaging, which I'm just going to keep to one side, as I may want to use that later if I've got the bike upside down to stop me from getting any scratches on the back part of this bike. And we can now move on. Next step I would suggest is to get the foot stand, the cargo stand, onto the bike, so that we then can use the stand to carry out the rest of the work with the bike being a lot more stable. I'm going to go back to this piece of foam, I'm going to place that on the floor, and I'm going to turn the bike upside down so that it's resting on its two handlebars and that rear part of the rear frame. And I'm going to make sure that that is on top of that foam so that I don't get any scratches or damage on that bit of paintwork. So I'm now going to go to our stand and get that out of its packaging. The stand comes with 3 bolts already applied into it. So we're going to need to undo those bolts, as they're the 3 bolts that are going to hold the stand in place. So I'm just going to get to work on just undoing those. For that, you're going to need your spanner, a 10mm spanner out of your toolkit, and also it's a 5mm Allen key. This is the wonderful thing about trial and error. I'm going to put those bolts back together just so that I don't lose any of the parts. Now we can get to work on positioning the stand. So the stand needs to be positioned with the legs going backwards towards the rear wheel. You'll see that the 3 bolts will align, and you can get to work on putting those bolts through and starting to get that tightened into position. So I'm going to take that off. I'm starting with the most forwardly bolt, and I'm pushing that through. And now I'm going to pop the nut onto there and the washer. I'm not going to do these up tight now. I'm going to get all 3 bolts into position, and then I'll tighten them one by one once they're there. So all 3 bolts are just thumb tight now. So I can go around with my 10mm Allen key, 10mm spanner and my 5mm Allen key, and start tightening them to the required tension. For this bit, you are working quite close to the chain, so do be careful not to get any grease on yourself or your clothing. Go back to the first bolt that I started with and just make sure that it is now done up as tight as possible. The second bolt, and then finally the 3rd bolt. So now, to give you an idea, this stand is spring loaded, so it can easily be knocked and then it will spring into position. It means that it can't accidentally drop down whilst you're riding the bike, and then that's what it looks like when it's in the up position. We'll flip the bike back round, we'll pop it onto its stand, and we can get to work on fitting the front wheel. Once again, I'm going to put the tools back into my tool bag so that I know where they are for later. So I'm now going to discard this protective plate by unscrewing the bolts. So I've gone back to the accessory box, and I've taken out of there our quick release skewer. I'm going to take off the quick release skewer bolt by unscrewing it, and I'm also going to take off one of the springs that are on the skewer. Take the protective plates off of the wheel, and then going from the disc side first, I'm going to take the skewer and I'm going to insert it all the way through until it's on that side. I'm then going to take my spring and I'm going to place that onto the skewer with the smallest part of the spring going on first, opening up to the wider part of the spring, and then I'm going to place my screw. I'm only going to do that end cap up very, very lightly so that I've got maximum distance within the skewer so that I can put it into the bike and then close it down once it's in place. So going back to the front of the bike now, I have a brake pad plastic clip that I'm going to take out of the brake. We only insert those so that the brake can't be accidentally actuated whilst it's in transit. So I'm going to take that out and set that to one side, and then I'm going to offer the wheel into position. I'm going to line up the front disc rotor with the gap within the caliper, and I'm just going to pull the wheel up until it goes into place. Now what you can see is that the skewer has now gone into the housings, and I'm going to start rotating the skewer in a clockwise manner just to get the tightness. Once I've got it done up tight enough, I'm then going to push on the skewer, pull up the lever until it's fully closed against the front fork of the bike. The weight of the front wheel now will act as a counterbalance to the stand and will allow the front wheel to come down, and the back wheel will lift up. So we can now get to work on fitting the front mudguard, the front light, and then that's the front of the bike completed. So I've taken our front light out of the accessory box. I'll then take our mudguard and get it out of its packaging, and I'll grab my toolkit so that I can get to work on putting that front mudguard on. I'm going to first start by removing the bolts that are at the bottom of the front forks. They take a 4mm Allen key, and you have one on both sides. And then I'm going to remove the screw that's at the top of the forks, once again with a 4mm Allen key. Set that to one side. I can then position the mudguard in place with it resting just on the top of the wheel. Take my bolt and just apply that very lightly with 1 or 2 turns. Once I've got a couple of turns on it, I can then fix in the light fitting. So to do that, I'm going to pull the washer forward and slide the light fitting over that bolt and that washer, and then hold it in place at the top there. I can now get to work on tightening that bolt with the light held, and that will just keep it all locked into place whilst I'm doing the lower bolts. Okay, I can now get to work on the lower bolts. So I'm going to get one of my bolts in hand, pull that up, offer it into place, and then just do a hand tighten on that bolt. Move to the other side, similar thing, offer it into place, and then just hand tighten the bolt. Go back with the 4mm Allen key, and then tighten all the way up. Once that's done, we can then connect the light in, and that is this red connector to that red connector. They can only collect in one way, as there is a small indentation within that one, so it means that it can only collect in one, and just push it together very tightly, and then that's your front light plugged in. We can now move to the back of the bike where we'll fit the rear light. Once again, taken out of your accessory box, you have 2 bolts at the back of the bike. Once again, a 4mm Allen key. Tension, once again, similar to the front. We're going to connect the blue connector to the blue connector. And then give it a good push just to make sure it's sealed. So we're almost there, guys. We have one final step, and that's to fit the pedals. The pedals, once again, will come out of the accessory box. One thing to note with pedals is that they are designed to fit onto specific sides of the bike. So what you'll actually see on closer inspection is that one pedal will have an R for right side and one pedal will have an L for left side. And those are the sides as you are sat on the bike and as you are riding it. So the right pedal is going to go where my right leg would be, and then the left pedal will go where my left leg would be if I was riding the bike. So I'm going to start with the right pedal, go back into my toolkit, and I'm now going to look for the 15mm Allen key, spanner, sorry, and I'm going to get to work on tightening that. When you are applying, doing up pedals, both pedals will need to be done up in a similar motion. So the right pedal will need to be done up in a clockwise direction, whereas the left pedal will need to be done up in an anti-clockwise direction. Once again, I'm applying enough pressure to make sure that the tool is leaving a small indentation on my hand, and that's my way of knowing that I've done the pedal up tight enough. Okay, so we can now put our toolkit away. The bike is complete. One thing that I'm just going to finally show you within the accessories box is your branded power block. So this is the what you would use to charge the battery, and this is the only one that we would recommend that you would use to charge this battery, because we've specifically designed this to work in conjunction with the cells that we have within our batteries. I hope this video has been helpful and that you really enjoy owning and riding your new Mycle Cargo bike. Thank you very much.